left, 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 right.
This school began in 1857. We were founded originally to cater to the Anglo-Indian children who lived in the Anglo-Indian colony next to Sealda Station. So 1857, most of the area around here was jungle, and this was called Sealda, which is the Garden of the Foxes. Well, I came with the intention of staying for life because I felt called by God to come to India. I was a young sister, just 20, and we had lots of sisters here. We're here since 1841. This was my first superior. I had her from the age of 7 to the age of 12, and then she came to India as the first provincial. We had always run these very good schools. We had always had poor schools alongside, but mostly for Catholic children. One of the things we were supposed to do was see, judge and act. You know, see what the situation is, make a judgment on what you should do and then take action. And I said, well, we're here inside in this beautiful convent. We've nothing to see. So I took the children and we went outside. And outside the gates I found such poverty. I realized we're running something parallel and we're ignoring what is a very, very heavy responsibility which we don't even see as ours. From 1964 I had been very concerned about the poor children, about whom nobody seemed to be bothering much. And we were running our lovely schools and I felt very uneasy at this.
তোর নাম কি রে বাবু? পিঙ্কি?
প্রীতি।
রীতি। তোর ছোট একটা ভাই আছে না বোন আছে?
Initially we had 2 schools running here. One was the free school for children from very, very financially deprived backgrounds. And the rest of the school was for children who could pay fees. And in the few years, the poor children had been leached out almost entirely. So I set myself to bring back the poorest children, to have one section 50% poor and 50% well off. The first year I was here, some Catholic lady's neighbour, who was a Muslim, said, "Do you think if I bring my little daughter, sister will take pity?" So that was the very first Muslim child that I took in from a poor background. And then after that the word got round, must have got round in all these busty areas, here's a school that might consider us. And now they come quite normally, they all make their application and they sit with the well-off people, and then the children themselves we take by lottery, so but there's no exam, so there's no competition to get in. It's just your luck if you get in. The first thing I tried to do when I came here was to do a survey of the children on the street who were in great need. And I prepared the children, the school and the teachers. They came back and they said there are no poor children on the street, they're all quite fat. They could not recognize the signs of malnourishment in swollen bellies and swollen limbs. And I realized that I was too soon. They were not at all prepared. They were living in here in a very nice setup, totally unconscious of what was going on outside. And so I thought the best thing to do would be to get the children out into the villages first, and then perhaps from there we could come back into the city. So I began taking them out every week into the villages. They handle about 3,500 children in village schools every Thursday, which is the school holiday. I send out 150 children. Every child sacrifices one school holiday a month to go out into the villages and to teach the children. Got 120 little kids in a primary school of all different ages from 5 to 10, and you're a lone master with 120 children. What do you do? Even the very best of teachers, I mean, we go out to the villages and we see that these teachers are very devoted, very capable. I see like in that school where we teach English, 147 girls and one teacher packed into a classroom. Then we had other schools where 860 children and 5 teachers. 1,600 boys and girls up to class 12 and 12 classrooms. It's an uphill battle because the government, there are 51,780 primary schools in West Bengal alone, 51,000. Like the numbers are just mind-boggling. You've got millions of children.
FN পাখা ইংরেজিতে ফ্যান তাহলে FN পাখা fan.
And I learned to consult the people that we're working for, to go there as people offering, you know, to be friends and then see how together we can solve problems. Not to go in with a service and say, we're the great ones and we're going to do it, you know.
51, 52, 53.
And the first thing the villagers asked me, the masters of those schools, why have you come here? You know, why are you here? And I said, well, I'm here because I have a conscience. We're in the city, the government gives us funding, we're allowed to take fees from the children, we run very good schools. And I come out here and I find you in little hovels of schools that even you wouldn't put cattle into, no fans, no lights, no facilities of any kind, hundreds and hundreds of children to one master. And I said, anybody with a conscience has to think about collaborating with you and offering you whatever assistance we can offer you and equalize the situation. So that satisfied them. They were very happy then. And one actually said to one of my teachers, has she come to convert us? So this particular teacher was a Hindu, and she said, well, I've been working with the Loreto nuns for 25 years and I must say I love Jesus, but no one has ever asked me to convert.
Those people are class 12s, so they teach the higher classes because you know they are big girls now, and these comparatively they teach the lower classes because they are in class 5, so they can teach class 1 or 2.
From class 5 we've been doing these things, so we are experienced in this. We don't really have to take any trainings and all. No, I won't be a teacher. It's just an experience, and this is a school. We have to share every experience.
Anushka Mitra, Neha Maria Gupta.
All over the world you have thousands and thousands of secondary school kids who could easily make the whole rest of them literate and benefit a lot in the process, no? Now, after the children had been out in the village, going out week by week from 1979 to about 84, they came to me and they said, you know, we're going out so far to the villages and we're not seeing the children in front of us on the street. Now, they got the chance to see those children in 79, but their eyes were closed. It was only when they went out to the villages and they began to get more and more experience of the poverty of the children in front of them. So I said, fine, if you want to start a program for the children on the streets around here, go out and do it yourselves. I only give you two basic rules. One is you're not to offer them anything by way of material, food or anything else, and you're not to change their capacity to survive. So they brought them in. They went out in the afternoons over towards the station, all along the footpaths. They talked to the parents, they talked to the children. They said, we're only children ourselves, but we could invite you in. You could come to our school in the afternoons and we could teach you. And slowly, slowly the children began to come in.
Can you identify? He will be 20 years. Does he look like 20 years? No?
Then they began to come earlier and earlier, and they were tumbling around on the playground playing with the little ones coming out from school. Parents were standing there watching. Nobody raised an objection. So gradually I encouraged them to come earlier and earlier, and slowly then I felt, you know, we could have them in school the whole time. Every child in our school has 2 periods of work education per week on their timetable. So we ended up with a reservoir of 50 potential children coming from the regular school, free and ready to teach whoever came to the school.
I am teaching them with rice to make alphabets.
They sit down on a one-to-one basis with the children and they prepare them. The first thing we do is to make them literate. We give them a baseline data test whereby we ascertain what letters do they know of the alphabet, can they count, can they add, can they subtract, and so on. And then once we know what their current knowledge is, then we build on that. We have developed many innovative methods by which the children can learn faster. And then we shift them onto books, and then we push them as fast as they're ready to go. And say an 11-year-old child can be ready for regular school within about a year of joining the program.
My name is Agnes Tinky James. I'm in the 12th standard and will be appearing for my boards next year. This is my house. This is my very small house.
This is the kitchen.
No, this is the house.
This is the house. And if it's raining?
If it's raining, we cover the thing with the plastic and all. We stay under that.
Agnes Rinky James is actually the youngest of 3 sisters. And all 3 were here. When they first came to us, they were living under a staircase. Then later on they graduated onto a tiny little place up on a roof.
I think I'm one of the luckiest person that I'm been selected as one of the 700 students to get the scholarship, and I'm being able to study. I would like to become a model or work in a bank. So either of the options, and I like collecting posters of my favorite actors and all. I like singing. My parents, I don't think they would have been able to cope up with my educational expenses, because nowadays the money is so high that I don't think they would be able, and that too we are from a very poor background, and Sister Cyril had supported us, so they had influenced us all. We are very grateful to her, that's it.
Every year we take in about 100 new children into nursery. That's English medium. Now those 100 will be 50% from the very poorest, like this child, and 50% from families able to pay the fee.
She's done a lot for me. So she's just asked us for the children who are not being able to study properly, who are not coping up with the class, if we could spend 2 hours for them and make them study. And we are always ready to do that. First do your correction, then we'll do with English. And you do it. You have to do your own correction. She won't show you because in your exams you're not going to pass like that.
So many children coming in from well-off families will never touch the lives of these poor children unless they go into their houses as domestic slaves. By bringing these children into the heart of the school, having them mix with the regular kids, having them stand at assembly, having them get up and take assemblies in front of the regular kids, you break down all those barriers. People begin to see them, they're just the same as us. And once that's broken down, it'll never come back in the lives of those other girls. They'll always see people as equals. I have not just brought all these children in and dumped them on everybody. I have talked to the parents, you know, what sort of school do you want? What kind of education? What is education? Is education just learning a few things out of a book, sitting and thumping them out in an exam as if you were a computer, and contributing nothing to the society which has produced you? What kind of children do you want? What kind of people do you want your children to be? I grew up in Ireland. During my very early years, the war in Europe was raging, from 39 to 45. I saw Jewish children being smuggled out to Ireland. I saw the condition they were in. And Ireland was not an affluent country, it was a very poor country. It was during the winters there in the 1940s where there was snow on the ground and it was very bitterly cold. I sat with children who were without shoes beside me in the desk. I sat with children whose heads were crawling with lice, and I went home and told my mother no one would sit beside them. And she said, you will sit beside them and I will clean your hair when you come home. So when I see poor men here carrying heavy loads, I see my own people also. Looking after people who are poor, caring, challenging, helping people to find solutions to their own problems, not just simply handouts. We never had handouts to give, but we had a hand to reach out and help to another person, a heart to care for them. I think that's where all this came into my life.
When I small, that time I came in here.
Actually, Maya and Shaya, they were found on the station. They were very, very tiny, and they were brought by another brother of one of the children already here. This boy said that their surname was Shaw, but that was all we knew about them.
When my mother leave us, that time I and my sister crying. that Didi's brother has long brother. She take my sister and I came in here. I like this school and I have many friends.
My name is Shubhadra Mondal. I came from Maulali, from the street, and I'm 13 years old. When I was small, my father used to drink and beat my mother, and we are 4 sisters. And my sister used to take us and go to the street and beg, and sister sees us every day. One day she brought us here to school.
I was going home at 12 o'clock on the night, and they were all crying on the side of the road, and it was a very wet night. I got very angry because this had been going on for some time, so I brought them inside and I put them on my veranda here. I said, now you sleep here for the night, don't go back to him.
But in the middle of the road? What?
We put one plastic over here, and here we used to live.
The children took permission from me. They said, we're going to confront him. So the biggest girl, Mongolo, and Kali and Ashish went out for the weekend and confronted him with the fact that he was drinking too much and he was beating up their mother. No other girl that I know of in India in all my years here has ever had the courage to stand in front of her father and face him with something that he had done wrong. I think it's a fantastic witness to what education can do for kids.
When I was small, I used to play, and from the small I want to be a teacher. So I used to say, here I am telling one story and they are listening.
Kali suffered from having a family that did not support her. As she grew older, she began to fall further and further behind because the father was drinking, even though we got the father off the drink many, many times. The mother idea, you see, is get them married off as quickly as possible, and then they've no responsibility. We keep on inviting Kali back. For any child like this, the place is always open. The most important thing for these children is the acceptance that they get, that they're loved as they are. And then they have the strength to change themselves. But we don't put sort of that you must reach this much by this time. Those kind of things we don't do for them. Just let them grow and be happy in a free a system as is possible. And we get the children who really, really need to be in, and on their free will to remain with us because our gates are open. It's not a prison. So we're not catching children on the street who need to be brought in and forcing them to come in and stay. They have to make that decision themselves. It's not just a question of feeding them and clothing them. It's also the question of forming their personalities, helping them to develop as people to their best potential, seeing that their best potential is not in any way inhibited by the sufferings that some of them have undergone. I think that is extremely satisfying. Now we found some time ago a little 3-year-old child, little girl, was raped. And I began to realise then the risk, especially that girl children undergo while they're out on the streets. So I said, why can they not come and live in the school and be safe? And that began the Loreto Rainbow Homes programme, whereby we take in girls who are at risk on the streets and they live in the school as in their home. Because all our big schools lie empty from 2 every afternoon to 8 the next morning. So children can easily come in and occupy the space, use the toilets, the showers, whatever is available to them, and then have it ready for the day scholars the next morning.
Sister coming.
We keep children who perhaps have no parents, many of them have no parents at all, and some of them have parents, but the parents are so dysfunctional that it's not possible for them to stay with them. They help to cook their own food. We do have a cook who also cooks, as I say, for 700 in the middle of the day. They make their own breakfast. They make their chapatis every night.
We are making chapati for everyone. We will do tomorrow, we will do now, and tomorrow we will give everyone and they will eat and we will finish.
They work very well in teams. After their dinner, some clean up the kitchen and some wipe down the tables and some wash curtains, some clean out toilets and so on. They do their homework also. At their dinner they are allowed to look at television, some cartoons, and really the night shelter, the whole setup for these street children, is meant to be as close to a home atmosphere as possible. And we don't enter into this boarding school syndrome of having beds and dormitories and things like that. So in India, most people do sleep on the ground. Most people sleep on a bamboo mat. So the children have these mats. They sleep on them during the night, and then in the morning they roll them up, put them away neatly. And the same area which they use during the night for sleeping is used during the day for teaching. The education for the other children is sponsored by people coming from all over the world, from India itself and from outside. So I don't ask any parents to pay extra, but I do leave it open to them that if they would like to take on another child, if they can afford it, it would be good for them, and many of them do that. How many gave up the test on Monday?
Nobody was collecting, so we brought it on.
In class 5 or so, I do a reflection, who pays your fees? Do you earn the money to pay your fees? No. So that means your parents pay your fees or someone else pays your fees, but nobody in this class pays fees. So you are all equal. You are all living on the graciousness of other people. Have you any questions? Anything you haven't understood? Anything that requires an explanation? Yes?
Lungs part.
What about the lungs?
Wrong. We didn't do respiratory system in class 9.
See what happens when you breathe. Have you drawn breath into your lungs, or it has come in on its own? No. What you have done by sitting up straight, you have created a vacuum. Here in the middle of you, you have a diaphragm. Now, that diaphragm becomes flat. So your diaphragm muscle flattens. That's the first thing. Your ribs, sit up straight, take a breath. Can you feel your ribs moving up? I only need the body. 1 minute. The first thing I have to tackle is competition. Many of the schools are rife with competition. Competition meaning that the child who gets the highest marks gets the best prize every year. Now this makes the parents also rabid, because they want their children to get the first prize. So the first thing I have to tackle is this whole concept of children being pitted against each other in competition. Now when you get rid of that and you bring in the idea of the community values, not competitive values, you've already practically won your battle. Because if you have these competitive values where people are competing for half a mark, they're not going to stay back in the afternoon to help a poor child. They want to get their marks, they want tuitions. But when you remove that, then you compete with yourself. You strive for excellence at the level of your own potential, not someone else's. And this relieves the children of a lot of pressure, because they don't have to measure up to come first. They can all get the prize if they work hard enough. You'll find by next year, the year after, the children will be willing to work for other children, because that pressure is off them.
I have this 5-year-old child staying at my place. He's actually my maid's grandson. She has been working in our house for the past 17 years. And me and my sister, we have actually put the child into a school, and I myself teach him every day for around 1 hour or so.
Come on, you're all going to be doctors. You're all going to be surgeons. What are you going to do if you can't cut and you can't feed?
আমি যখন বাড়িতে ছিলাম আমি অন্য জায়গায় কাজ করতাম ওরা যখন আমায় পয়সা দিত তখন আমার হাতে দিত না বলকি আমার মায়ের হাতে দিত बहुत चिल्लाता था मारता था एक भी काम भूल जाता था तो बहुत मारता था उसका लड़की हमको जो छुपा के लेके भागा है वो भोर 5 बजे उठती है उठ के हमको हर टाइम बुलाती है मेरा कपड़ा वहीं रहता है हम उस कपड़ा का संग लेके हमको भाग के लाई थी वही ये स्कूल का जब वो ये स्कूल में पढ़ता था वही यहाँ का हेड था जैसा वो सब गरीब लड़की लोग को भर्ती कराता था वही था उसको शिष्य बोला था जो जितना भी गरीब लड़की को मिलेगा यहाँ पर ही लाना वही लेके भागा है
Children who come from families who can't afford to feed them and who can't afford to clothe them, and they hand them on to another family that can afford to keep them and clothe them, but who in return exact maybe 10 to 12 hours of slave labour from them, and they pay the parents maybe 200 rupees a month for them. And these are the most pitiable little children, because they're locked into these houses and nobody can get at them. Any adult going will be told, oh, she's only up on a visit from the village, and the child is too frightened to say otherwise. Our children, regular children who live in those same areas, they know who these children are, and they know that these children are kept in the houses. So they go along, and as well as that, their parents are on the same social standing as the employer. So it's difficult for the employer to reject our children. They go along and they say, you know, we have a little girl, little boy living here, please allow them out once a week. We are making a club for children of the neighbourhood. And so they get them out, they listen to their story, they find out what is their problem, if they have a toothache, if they need to see a doctor, are they lonely, how are they treated in the house, and so on. And for an hour every week they get them out, and then they go back and they harass the employers, please let them out every day.
Wherever I go, I see some child, I start talking with her, first I ask her name, then from where she came, and then ask her address. Then I say, you want to be my friend, and whatever, involved with her. I try to make friends with her, and after that I visit once and see what she's doing.
অনেক মেয়েদের নিয়ে গেছি এটা বিয়ে ওনা ওর বিয়ে করে দিলাম তো আমি এখানে ও ছোটতে ছিল না আমার কাছে তারপর বড় হলো বিয়ে দিয়ে দিলে হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ মন্দিরে বিয়ে দিলাম হ্যাঁ দিয়ে
কত বয়স
ওর বয়স 10 বছর 11 বছর হবে
11 years যখন এসেছিল তখন
ওর বোধহয় 6-7 বছর
6 years old
আমার বড়দি ভালো করেছে
তুই পড়িসনি
আমি পড়িনি আমার
ও ছোটতে চলে এসছে তো দিল্লিতে নিয়ে গেছিল ওকে দিল্লিতে ছিল
ওখানেও কাজ করতো
ওকে খুব মারধর করতো দিল্লিতে আমাদের ওর জ্যাঠামশাই এখানে কাজ করে মিষ্টির দোকান ওই মা কালী মিষ্টির দোকান ওখানে কাজ করে হ্যাঁ আমাদের আলাপ হয়েছিল আমাদের বাড়িতে সব বাচ্চারা ছোট থেকে আসে আমরা বিয়ে থাইয়ে দিয়ে দিয়ে আবার চলে যাই
The girl who you have seen, Meeta Rani Shaw, she's got 4 sisters. The parents, 4 of them are into four houses in 4 villages, working 200 rupees per child, gives you 4 children, gives you 800 rupees. 800 rupees in a village, it's quite good for farming and all. Okay, father doesn't work. Father is always into drinking or into liquor, country liquor, into playing, gambling and all. The mother is, her mother, Meeta's mother is already doing household work in the village itself, in different houses. So then, they have sent these farmed out, you say, 4 children to work, and then they are sitting and getting the salaries, that's all. We are trying for this girl to come to our school and study. She came for some time, then again the employer started stopping her because she was learning up so many things. So in this case, you see, the employer is good. You can say the employer is good, looking after her, not beating her, not torturing her, but will not send her to school.
The police are helpless unless the parents bring a case. You see, and the parents don't want to bring the case. But these are minor children. Like in other countries, there's a society against cruelty to children, society against cruelty to animals, and they have legal teeth, so to speak. But here in India, nobody has legal teeth unless the mother. In one of our schools, Loreto Elliott Road, a sister discovered that she had about 175 of these children employed by regular children of the school. So she sent a letter to the parents and said, if you're not able to send your domestic child to my school, then it's better that you take out your own child. Please employ the parents of these children and send these children to school. And the result is she got 178 of them into school. The hidden domestic child labour had no standing. They were not seen. They didn't come in under labour laws or anything. And now, through not just us, but through the whole group of people with whom we work, we're part of a huge network working for child labour. They have managed to get the government now to say that hidden domestic child labour is hazardous. So it's illegal now to employ a child.
My dream is for future I'll study more and I want to stay here. After my studies, then I don't know what I'll do after my studies.
We followed our street children out there to see why were they coming in the first place. And then we discovered that they're coming in, there's no food, there's no work, there's no school, there's no sanitation, there's no water, there's nothing. And so we decided that we would spread our methodologies where children were not getting this benefit. What we do, therefore, is we bring teachers in and we call this training barefoot teacher training, because you need only your feet to walk. Shoes are a luxury. In most of the training colleges, 90% is theory, which is like the shoe. If you've any common sense, you don't need it, and if you've no common sense, you shouldn't be trying to be a teacher. And on the other hand, the practical, which is the foot, is only about 10% in the training colleges. We dispense with the theory because we do it all practically. We put these young trainees who would not have passed their final exam and therefore can't go to a college, we put them into the classrooms. They observe what you can do with a 4-year-old, what you cannot do, what you can do with a 5-year-old, what you cannot do, which prepares them to be good practicing primary school teachers, at least up to the level of class 3 or 4, by which time the children are big enough and able to walk out to the local government school.
Winter has left, spring has come, so let us enjoy and have fun.
Actually, they have come from the remote villages in many parts of the West Bengal, and our teachers will come and see how they prepare their teaching learning materials over here to teach the children in their village schools.
And for this we have trained about 12 to 1400 teachers, and they're spread out over 470 centres, whereby we are reaching out to 26,700 children all over the slums of Calcutta. And what I have found also, and which I keep on telling all the principals, you don't have to have a fear of money. If you go into this work and you really do it properly, money will come. People can see the good that's being done and they will come forward. And that has been right from the very beginning. It has been my experience. Everywhere you have the same big schools, big elite schools, everywhere. You don't find any place without them. And every one of them, you know, feathering the nests of well-off kids. And then those kids will go on to later on become the leaders of the country and possibly bigger exploiters than those that are there already. I mean, why does all this exploitation continue? Because the people who are doing it are coming from that same insensitive class, because they've never been sensitized as children. We've had a big thing with the principals of the schools, and they produce the most elegant excuses, you know, oh, these children will never survive, and you know, how do you expect this to happen? It's very wrong, it would be bad and wrong of us to bring those children into such an atmosphere. And my response is, yeah, so it would be, yeah, so change the atmosphere. Don't refuse the children. Change your atmosphere. Simplify your needs. Bring down your big money-based competitive education. Simplify it. Make it community-based. We can do it. We have enough big schools in India to really change the system if we want to. And to keep in mind that all those children who are emerging from our big schools, they are going to be the future IAS officers and leaders. On the other hand, the poor ones we take in are going to be the future politicians. So we need to take them all in and conscientize them.
Today is Sister Tuesday. Happy Tuesday! Happy Tuesday! Yes.
They've decorated my office. Come and see it. Cut out a lot of the formalities. Cut out a lot of the things which take up so much of your time. Cut out the rigidity. You know, relax, do things in a freer way. Don't expect everybody to be perfect, and don't expect to be perfect yourself. And most of all, open your heart and open your gates and let all these children in, and they will definitely convert you. They will change you totally.